Please join me in welcoming on stage Lord Young of Acton, President of the Free Speech Union.
Toby Young, Secretary, I call myself not the President, the General Secretary of the Free Speech Union. Great to see so many members here. Seen a few of you with your badges, but those who aren't yet members, we have a stand in the exhibition area. Please swing by and sign up. I thought I'd begin with a warning. At the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, the ARC conference last month, which coincided with the beginning of the current heatwave, a Guardian journalist was prowling around hoping to buttonhole delegates that he'd identified as climate deniers. That same journalist may be here today, so I thought I'd tell you what happened when he confronted me at that conference. Incidentally, it didn't help that it was approaching 40 degrees centigrade in the main auditorium as he approached me. "I see you're sweating profusely," he began, shoving a microphone in my face. "Still think climate change is a hoax?" I tried to patiently explain that few people on my side of that particular debate deny that climate change is real. We don't even maintain that man-made carbon emissions aren't a contributory factor. The disagreement is about how much of the 1.5 degree rise in average global temperatures since the 1850 to 1900 period is due to man-made emissions and how much to other factors such as solar variability, natural ocean cycles, and land use changes. Yes, we're fond of pointing out that the 1850 to 1900 period may have been unusually cold, coming as it did at the end of the Little Ice Age, so may not be a reliable baseline. And the rise in temperatures since then may have been exaggerated by recordings being made in built-up areas or near airports. But that isn't to deny that climate change has actually happened in the last 125 to 175 years. This matters, I told the journalist, because if the climate emergency lobby is wrong about the extent of global warming and its causes, it may not be necessary to immiserate ourselves to achieve net zero by 2050. Even if we allow that there could be some benefits in the unlikely event of China, America, India, and Russia committing to the same 2050 target, which they haven't, and China emits more carbon every 10 days than the UK does in a year, even if we allow that there would be some benefits, they would be outweighed by the costs, which, as we know from estimates of how many billions we need to spend to decarbonise the UK's power grid, are eye-watering. Needless to say, the journalist's eyes had glazed over long before I hit my stride. The article hasn't appeared yet because he's probably here trying to gather more material, but when it does, I don't expect any of my remarks to make it into print. One of the hallmarks of the climate Jeremiahs is a complete lack of interest in what their opponents have to say. It's no good quoting J.S. Mill at them. He who knows only his own side of the case knows little of that. They are as deaf to arguments about why they should listen to the other side as they are to detailed rebuttals of their points. And in this, I'm afraid, they are typical of the progressive left. Why such a profound absence of curiosity? It's not as if that's always been true of their tribe. My father, a lifelong socialist, enjoyed disagreeing with conservatives far more than he did agreeing with fellow travellers. Arguing with his opponents was meat and drink to him. The drift towards intellectual isolationism is a relatively recent phenomenon. So why the withdrawal from public debate? For one, the pronouns in your email signature brigade are on top, and success leads to complacency. Insurgents like us have to study the enemy in order to win. Defenders of the status quo think they don't need to because they can't imagine losing. For another, they rarely stray outside their metropolitan bubble, which means they're used to being surrounded by people who agree with them. That, in turn, has led to the atrophying of the muscles you need to defend a political position. So it's easier to sidestep an argument than enter a debate with a match-fit antagonist. Refusing to engage is also a tactic. Stonewall, the LGBTQ lobby group, literally had a policy of no debate for several years. The idea is that if you share a platform with your opponents or sit across from them in a television studio, you're legitimizing their views. Refuse to do so, and you're conveying just how abhorrent and beyond the pale they are. The no-debate policy is usually accompanied by painting your opponents as far more extreme than they really are, far right rather than right of centre. Thus, the National Union of Students has had a policy of no platform for racists and fascists dating back to 1973, by which they mean anyone to the right of Zach Polanski. But the main reason for the progressive left's refusal to engage with people like us, to listen to people like us, is that they're convinced of their moral superiority. They believe their values have led inexorably to their views on issues like climate change, immigration, trans rights, and therefore any challenge to those views is ipso facto a challenge to those principles. Since they regard their core beliefs as unassailable, they think there's no point in engaging in any discussion about the positions they've led to. Anyone who doesn't share them is either morally blind, been led astray by bad actors such as Elon Musk, hence their obsession with misinformation, as if the only possible explanation for why you don't agree with them, why you don't think, say, women can have penises, is because you've been misinformed. Or you're in the pay of an evil corporation, i.e. in league with the devil. In this respect, they're not so different to pre-modern Christians, except they're less willing to debate their quasi-religious beliefs because they have no tradition of biblical scholarship to draw on. In the absence of God or revelation, how can they defend their values? This ultimately, I think, is why they're so unwilling to enter into any kind of dialogue, because deep down they know their convictions are resting on air. It is them who are in denial about how paper-thin their values are, how hollow their faith, not us. Thank you.